Okay, so here's just a review of conic sections if you need it. And remember, conic sections are just the way a shape is made when you slice a cone a certain way. So if you look at that, slice it straight across, it makes a circle. Slice it in a diagonal, it's an ellipse. Slice it on the side, it's a parabola. And if you cut down both of them, you're going to get a hyperbola. All right, so the standard form for a circle could be x squared plus y squared equals r squared, which we're familiar with because that helps us with polar form. The other way when we translate it would be x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. And here in this case, HK is your center, and R is your radius. So you have to take the square root of that sometimes to find your radius. All right, so it's important to know that you're going to take the opposite of what you see to make your center, the opposite of what you see for H, and the opposite of what you see for K. All right, so let's play around with this for a little bit. So write the standard form of the equation of a circle that's tangent to the x-axis and has a center at 3, -2. All right, so I'm going to draw a graph of that because I cannot see it without it. All right, so center at 3, -2. So 1, 2, 3, go down 1, 2. So it's probably about here. Oh, I don't know why it's doing that. All right, so it's probably about here is the center. And then it's tangent, meaning it's touching the x-axis. So it's going to go around and touch the x-axis. Well, we really only need that part. We only need to know how far it is from the edge to the other, to the center. So I am going to go ahead and draw the whole circle. Even though it doesn't really look like a circle, it's a really bad circle, but you get the idea, okay? But what we need is how far is it from the edge of the circle. So if this is at 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, our radius is 3. So our center is 3 and -2. So H is 3 and K is -2. So let's plug that into our standard form, and we've got x minus 3 squared plus y plus 2, doing the opposite, equals 3 squared, which is 9. That is all you need to do. Plug that into that formula. All right, let's play around with something else. Now you've got, this equation is not in standard form yet, but we will be able to get it in standard form if we complete the square. The thing that we have to remember is we have to have an x squared and a y squared. So any numbers in front of x squared and y squared have to be divided. So in order to make a 2x squared into a 2 and a 2y squared, we need to go and divide everybody by 2. So when we divide this by 2, divide that by 2, divide that by 2, divide that by 2, divide that by 2, this is what happens. You get x squared. I'm going to write a little smaller so I don't run out of room. X squared plus y squared minus 2x plus 6y minus 9 equals 0. All right. Still looks like a big giant equation, but if we turn them into two different parts, let's go and separate out our x's. So we've got x squared minus 2x. All right, and then we've got y squared plus 6y. I just put my x's and my y's together. Now this -9, I know that ultimately I am going to want to get it out of the way so that I can complete the square. So I'm going to add it. Okay, if I add it here and I add it here, I end up with, oops, I need to save room for here. All right, I'm going to end up with 9 on that side. Now I want to complete the square so that I can write it as a square. So we're going to take half of negative 2. So negative 2 divided by 2. And then we're going to square it. So negative 2 divided by 2 is negative 1. And when I square negative 1, I get positive 1. I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. Take half of 6. 6 divided by 2. Square it. And I get 9. Okay, now we can't forget that if we added 1 here, we need to add 1 over here. If we added 9 over here, just randomly added it, you have to add it over here because it's an equation. Okay, so now let's go and look at that. All right, this can be factored, so we're going to factor next. All right, and we're going to get x. This is the factors of 1 that add up to negative 2 are negative 1 and negative 1. And the factors of 9 that add up to 6 are 3 and 3. And these terms add up together to be 19. So we can rewrite this as x minus 1 all squared. And we can write this as y plus 3 all squared is equal to 19. That's your standard form. All right, so your coordinates of the center are going to be the opposite of this, which is 1, and the opposite of that, which is negative 3. And you're going to take the square root of that, so your radius is the square root of 19. All right, I don't have room to graph this on here, but if I draw a little tiny graph, I'll do it. All right, my center is going to be at 1, negative 3. So 1, negative 3 is right here. And my square root is 19, so it's a little bit more than 4. It's going to kind of look like that. All right, let's try something else. Okay, these are your assignments. This is your assignment. So let's go look at center of 0 and radius 5. So you could do x minus 0 squared plus y minus 0 squared equals 5 squared, which is 25. Now, x minus 0 squared is really just x squared. Y minus 0 squared is really just y squared equals 25. There you go, you're done. All right, I'm going to let you work on the rest of those. Then you also have another equation. This one involves completing the square, okay, like we just did. All right. This one is not as hard as it looks. Just rearrange some stuff. All right. Circle passes through the origin and a center. All right. So you're really going to go, I'll give you a hint. We did this in a warm-up. You want to find the distance between 0, 0 and negative 4, 3. That's going to give you your radius. So your distance is equal to your radius, and that's equal to whatever you do for the distance formula. Okay, so the distance formula is just 0 plus 4, right? You're going to subtract your x's, and then you're going to subtract your y's. All right? So if your center is at negative 4, 3, and your radius is whatever this is, you can write your equation. Okay? And then the same thing, you got to go find your radius based on your distance between these two guys right here. Here's your center though. And then let's look at these other ones. These two are endpoints of a diameter. You need to go find the midpoint. The midpoint between the diameter is equal to your center. Okay? Once you get your center, then you got to go find your radius. All right? You can find the distance between the midpoint and one of these endpoints to find your radius. Okay? And then you can write your equation. All right? And my hint for this one is to graph that and graph that and then find the distance between the two of them. That equals your radius. Okay? Once you have your radius, you also have your center over here. Okay, that's circles.